Good evening. Welcome to episode 4 of the Author's Outpost. I'm your host, Captain P.F. Dennis, and with me is...
Well, it's me, the rather late and environmental system challenged Casmodian.
Oh, that's okay. It's been a tough week. I had a rather difficult week. Too much work. Whenever there's too much work, it's difficult. And with us tonight, a surprise guest is Elenis Kendra.
Hello, all.
And we have a big show tonight. We did a series review of 6 missions by, let me get this right, NCC 89471. Or
there's a dash in there.
Oh, there's a dash. I didn't say the dash, but you know, we'll
dash 89471.
894. I got the numbers right.
But with the dash is my in-game handle.
Okay.
Known as Pax Federatica.
That's right. I was about to say, a.k.a. Pax Federatica. Anyway, we did his 6 missions, his Ghosts of War series, which we will discuss later. But first, Cast is going to fill me in on what's happened in STO this week, because I don't read.
Well, this week they've made a few more announcements leading us into what they're planning to do with the still somewhat mysterious Season 10. The bigger thing is they've been expanding out, I'll say, some of the background story of what's been going on with Sela since the last mission where we rescued her from the clutches of the Iconians. She has apparently escaped and on the lam. And much debate has ensued from this little storyline, which is kind of good to see, because it's been a lot of grumbly gloom, and, well, as is known, I'm the only one who gets to speak of doom.
Well, that's why we have you.
Doom! They've given more information. Apparently, the hotbed of fighting this time will be in the Klingon homeland, because there is now going to be a ground and a space combat set in the Cronus system. And this will be accessible by all factions, so apparently we have to go and defend them. Personally, I say, let them die. But, well, that's just because I'm a purist.
Oh, well, we're in a time of great diversity. Those Kirk days are long gone. Long gone. Live long and prosper, says our late great Mr. Spock. Well, of course,
true.
You know, that's another thing. You know, Leonard Nimoy passed away, God rest his soul, the great Leonard Nimoy, but some people act as if Spock himself had passed away, but we know he's just been missing. So.
He is somewhere beyond the rim.
Mm-hmm.
That's another series.
Okay, let's start off with the mission review. We decided to do an entire series, and we did.
Yes, and for note, folks, the series is The Ghosts of War, parts 1 through 6.
Yes. I have Pax's images up right now that he sent me, and we will put them in a slideshow so everybody can see them.
Part 1, my original subtitle instead of Murdered World was Dust to Dust. And as you might imagine, I changed it because it got stolen by Cryptic for their mission.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you always have to decide. If you have a mission that's named and they go and use that name, do you curse them stealing it, or do you just go, change?
Hey, I found another Foundry mission called Trill Death Do We Part. It's a Klingon mission. But hey, I'm keeping mine.
Yeah, but it's a Klingon side one, so
That's
only
right.
Klingons get to see it.
Anyway, I started off with these. I did 3 on one day and 3 on another day. And do you want to go mission at a time, or do you want to discuss this as a whole?
Well, I guess it probably works best if we go a mission at a time, since just there's so much going on.
Yes, that's true. And let me say for the record that this must have been so well planned out ahead of time. I can't imagine that, this was done on the fly. I mean, I tend to do things on the fly because things change as I'm working on it. But just the detail, it just had to be well planned out.
For the most part, it was. Part 1 was actually kind of done on the fly, but once I hit part 2, the rest of the story just kind of coalesced from there.
Yeah, it's extremely, extremely detailed, extremely well done. Even, all the tech is right there, too. I kept saying to myself, wow, that's perfect, that's perfect, that's perfect, that's perfect. Whenever we... although, I have to say, I was suspicious through the entire thing just because of the trialic waves. That from the minute they were mentioned, I was, saying, those guys are going to come soon. They're going to come soon. But, because we all know what that means. And yeah, I don't know. This is a kind of strange thing to review, especially with Yuan, because, how much can we really say where you don't want to spoil it? Stop us if we're going to say something that, you would rather not us talk about.
That I'll admit is kind of hard for me to judge myself.
Right, because obviously, first off, you mentioned, looking at the cue card for Part 5 kind of tells you that those trialic waves are going to come back.
Right. Well, Ari made a comment to me through the forums this week that what we should probably do is give a quick synopsis to each mission so that the audience knows what we're talking about. The last couple of reviews we did, we just kind of jumped in and started talking about them, but, the audience doesn't have the benefit of knowing what we know.
Which is a fair point. So the first one, we're sent on a mission, as is always the case, to investigate the loss of contact with a
science
mission. I was going to say, would you say it's a survey mission or just a science expedition?
It's a repair mission, strictly speaking. You're sent to repair a comm system that Starfleet intelligence uses to monitor things on the Romulan sphere of influence.
Right. Yes. The
like I say, that's how they first found out about the Romulan Republic movements and the other things.
Which I completely forgot to mark as a puzzle on my when I went through and rated it, because that was a puzzle.
Yes. That's something that I don't think I recall seeing in very many missions is a pure space puzzle like that.
No,
we always do ground
puzzles, but I don't see a whole lot of space puzzles out there.
Which for those puzzle haters, it's not a difficult puzzle.
I will say one thing about his puzzles that I actually really liked is that some puzzles you've actually had to write things down in order to solve the puzzle later on.
Yeah, that doesn't come up out to like part 4.
Not even that. It's that he makes it so you don't have to remember exactly, like say numbers. You don't have to remember exactly what they were. You just have to remember what range they were in. You don't have to identify the exact number, but as long as you knew that it wasn't over such and such a number and it wasn't under such and such a number, that'll get you through. It takes into consideration that no one has, most people don't have photographic memory.
Yes, it is entirely helpful not having to remember that it has a phase discrimination of 0.004.
Well, that we knew because of the episode.
Yes. But we investigate the comm array. We find out a mysterious signal, which leads us to the survey party that I aforementioned, and things go horribly wrong.
Yes, we end up with a decimated planet and a mystery.
And since we know that Cisco wasn't there, something else happened.
Huh?
But let's see. Gee, I played it all like on a marathon, so it's hard for me to remember where one thing
Which part?
stopped. Yeah. But let Pax tell us because he's most familiar with it. He'll lead us from there. From the planet, we discovered that there were satellites surrounding the planet.
Mm-hmm. They are a network of Thaleron emitting satellites designed to irradiate an entire planet and sterilize it. And as you might have seen in my Valley of the Shadow trilogy, that's the same. That's actually the same set of satellites that we see in that trilogy. That's sort of the origin story for how that satellite system got developed in the first place and what it was used for. And this series is basically what happens when someone steals that satellite system and uses it for their own nefarious purposes.
Cool. Yeah. So we leave the planet thinking that, this could be Romulan, Reman, whoever has, control of Thaleron technology. And as far as Starfleet knows, it's the Romulans and Remans. So we don't know who the perpetrator is right off. There's a scrambled message that we can't decode right off. So we don't know who sent that. And we go off looking to find out how this happened. But go ahead.
Which is where that we leave off to get into the next episode.
Okay. Which I'll let Pax again give you the lowdown on the episode.
Well, Part 2 takes place a few weeks after Part 1. Admiral Youngs of Starfleet Intelligence calls and tells you to get to Baronix Depot, which is another locale that turns up later in my Valley of the Shadow trilogy. You're supposed to pick up a Starfleet intelligence operative there, codename. She's known only by her codename of Black Snow.
Black Snow, yeah. Yeah, good character.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep.
She's what, half Bajoran?
Half Vulcan, half Betazoid.
Half Betazoid, right?
She has more of a personality of a human.
Yeah, but she's got these, hybrid telepathic powers.
Yeah, actually, they're considered rare on both. They're actually considered exceptionally rare abilities, even by either race's standards. She has the ability basically to alter the perception of people around her within like a 20-meter range, or even to plant suggestions in people's minds to do things, or to ignore her, or to see her as somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's got that telepathic stealth.
Mm-hmm.
She can be invisible.
Basically, she's the one. She's kind of the mission giver on this one, because she tells you what the mission is, which is to find this rogue Romulan senator and capture him alive, and bring him to Admiral Youngs for further questioning.
Yeah, and I like the freighter idea.
I worked a lot of 007 stuff into my portrayal of Starfleet intelligence. I mean, the Admiral, her full name is Madeleine Youngs. Notice her first name started with M.
Yep.
It's actually that name actually comes from two of my relatives, kind of a conflation of the names of two of my relatives. And of course, the name of the ship, the SS Fleming.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I did notice that.
And even the name of the cover organization.
Oh yes, Interstellar Exports Limited.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, that's fine.
No, go ahead. I've been talking.
I was just going to say, this is actually, I was thinking I had played part 3, but I played part 2. I'm the only one who hasn't played all 6. I actually had mentioned this mission series to cast, I think it was 2 weeks ago, because it's actually almost exactly a year ago. PAX had asked me to girl review the second episode, and I never got to do that, but I did play the mission at the time and had written down all my thoughts on it and thought that it was very interesting. And it stuck in my mind enough that a year later, when we were talking about different noteworthy missions, that it popped into my head. And it was specifically because of the character of Black Snow that I believe it was pointed out for me to girl review.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, that's one thing I was gonna ask you, Elenis, if you'd ever gotten around to doing that.
Well,
Yes,
that was my fault mostly because
Before
it would have been on
you and
prime
your,
time.
Internet exile.
Well, a lot of things happened. I went back to work, and prime time became untenable to,
And then we rescued her from Elba 2.
All right. Yes. Well, anyway, you had Black Snow, who was the operative, and she helps you through this next mission. You have a covert mission to accomplish. Get into the base. That was, I think, one of my favorite sequences. Was this whole thing with Black Snow and the infiltration there.
And yeah, I guess you played it recently, but I've since changed her outfit since Elenis played it. I used to have her in kind of a ninja suit, but I've since given her a proper Starfleet intelligence.
Yeah, she had an intel outfit. Yeah, I noticed that because a lot of my my buffs have intel outfits. So whenever there was a moment with her there, she almost looked like part of the crew. But yeah, that was a good one. 2 is definitely a highlight for me in the series. So, Cast, anything?
Well, this is when we start finding out that there are bigger things afoot, because the character we are sent to render into the loving hands of Starfleet intelligence isn't quite who we think they are.
That's correct. I don't think... we're not going to go into it completely, but there is some...
subterfuge.
Yeah, and some confusion as to who could possibly be the
Perpetrator, culprit.
Right. Nemesis.
And that confusion kind of bleeds over into part 3.
Indeed.
Okay, and part 3. Pax, the synopsis?
Well, after the events of part 2, I'll give you a little minor spoiler. It ends with this imposter hijacking part of a Prometheus-class starship. They the other two, the top and middle sections of the starship get destroyed in part 2, but this imposter gets away with the bottom section, which is supposedly still armed to the teeth and plenty powerful enough to cause devastation. And it opens with we find out that he's used it to attack Baronix Depot, and you have to get over there and assist the Romulans, basically prevent one of their prevent a fusion core aboard the station from going critical.
Mm-hmm. And that was
and also, once you're there, you get a message from you have an arranged meeting with the guy who is now supposedly the new, at least official head of the Tal Shiar after Akiv's disappearance. Not Commander Rule, but supposedly the guy I've named General Phineas, who was supposedly technically the head honcho all along, but Sela kind of relegated him to a figurehead role.
Right.
During the events of Stowe, so that Hakiv could be there. Anyway, Phineas gives you some more information, all the information he's gathered on this imposter and his contacts in the Klingon Empire and the Cardassian Union. So you end up making a side trip to both of those places.
Right. So now it becomes more complicated as the two, actually 2 and 3, maybe 4 other races become involved.
Yeah. Actually, this is sort of the... what should I put? Oh. When I first set out to make this series, I originally imagined this being an 8-parter instead of a 6. But then I realized when I was making what were originally parts 3 and 4 that they were kind of repetitive and covering a lot of the same ground as part 2. So I wound up condensing what would have been parts 3, 4, and 5 into what's now part 3. That's why you have all these side trips of gallivanting across the galaxy, and there's even a mid-mission return to sector space in there.
Right, yep, to Deep Space Nine, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Was it? Yeah.
No, it was to Beta or say, but...
Right. Oh,
it was a different system.
Kinjin system.
Kinjin. I was going to say...
By the way, that system... That door and a few of the other doors in this series are going to be changed once the sector walls come down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. I have to go through all my missions and figure that out. But that's another thing. All right. So then we're what? We're on to part 4? Okay, well, let's have
this is where the focus of the mission shifts from the Beta Quadrant side over to the Alpha Quadrant side, or at least from Klingon and Romulan space into Cardassian space.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out about a secret True-Way base on Celtris 3, which is, as you might remember, is a canon location.
Yeah, Gull Madrid.
Only this time...
I looked everywhere, and there were not 4 lights.
Mm-hmm. No, we never got to be tortured. But there was, in fact, a base.
Anyway, while you're there, you find out that this conspiracy not only goes across space, it goes across literally thousands of years of time. And I've gotten some comments that an 80,000-year time frame was overdoing it. Well, as it turns out, with this upcoming Iconian storyline, we ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, well, that didn't bother me. I don't know. That span of time didn't... I don't know, I didn't think anything of it.
Yes, but this mission did one of the most wonderful things that could possibly been done. It killed the most obnoxious member of my crew.
Well, we won't say. That's kind of a spoiler. But, yeah, it was interesting. When the mission takes a turn where you finally do traverse a great deal of time. But not before some epic battle sequences back in the around Earth.
That's in part 5. That's what I've taken to call my series Battle of Hogwarts.
Yeah, part 4 is you only get into an epic battle in part 4 if you manage to break things horribly, like I did.
No, I knew enough to turn tail and run, but Cass decided he was going to war.
Well, I managed to annoy one enemy, and he brought friends, and I really hadn't had a chance to try out my spiffy keen new science command cruiser, and I went to town on them.
But then we go to part 5. And
yes.
Part 5 is involves
takes us to a war council in Mars space.
Mm-hmm.
Utopia Planitia, which features a few of my NPC versions of some of my in-game tunes, including my Romulan and the female Trill Captain that we also see in the Valley of the Shadow series.
And the deployment of the USS Pax Federat.
Yeah, the new version. The previous version, the Sovereign class version, got blown up in Valley of the Shadow Part 2, my prequel series. And then this is the new Odyssey version, because in game my USS Pax Federatica is a tactical Odyssey. That sort of makes its Foundry mission debut in Part 5.
Five was a lot of action. Not to say that the others weren't, but this one was exceptionally.
And the other thing about Part 5, I had originally designed Part 5 with Makos. Unfortunately, this was before we got the actual Mako costume, so I had to make homemade Mako costumes, which didn't turn out real well. And I eventually just wound up replacing them with Romulan Republic allies to kind of tie it back to the Romulan origin of the weapon and to the Romulan Republic prequel trilogy that I did, Valley of the Shadow.
Which I think works overall with them helping to defend. Plus, there's one particular sequence where I had like 20 Republic soldiers firing plasma disruptors along with me. Just totally throwing down in Club 47.
Yeah.
Oh yes, the Battle of Club 47. That's probably my favorite.
That is the Battle of Hogwarts.
Yeah,
Which,
I mean, there's
fun
that
fact,
battle,
everybody.
and there's also the battle of the space battles.
Yeah. Fun fact: you can shoot through the glass of Club 47.
Yes, you can.
Nothing seems to be able to shoot you back, but you can totally shoot through that glass.
Yeah, I spent some time out in the hallway fighting, but I had to go deep. I had to go in and up the stairs to the old Club 47. I went up the center stairway, blazing away.
Oh yeah, because I swear they kept popping new ones.
Oh yeah, they kept spawning.
Because I just kept firing and firing. It was like Charge of the Light Brigade, only I was on the correct side of the cannons.
One kind of annoying thing about that map is I've noticed that I set most of the Davidians to spawn on that map right away, but even then they don't actually spawn until you cross over from the hallway into Club 47 for some reason.
I think it might have to do with the ranges, because if you remember spawn points, things don't tend to spawn until you come within like eyesight range of them. So if you left the actual push pin there, the push pin wouldn't register until you get within however many meters. So if you want them to spawn right away, you may want to put it, or have them spawn by the time you get there. You might want to put it, like, say, by the bank.
Oh, okay.
Or the exchange, and then because I don't think you want them to load too soon, because if you put the pin...
I don't really need them to spawn until I get close enough to be able to see into Club 47.
Then yeah, I would say probably put the pin like at the bank or the exchange, and then put the NPCs in Club 47.
All right.
Because yeah, if you put them at the transporter room, they'll spawn too early. That fight will be over before you get there. But if you put it there, they'll spawn. If you put it like by the threshold, it'll spawn before you actually get around the corner, so you don't see the transporter effect.
Yeah.
These are the things you learn when you walk into an area on a map and go, I told people to be here, why aren't they here?
Yeah, well, Part 5 wrapped up nicely. And,
which then led us into our meeting with the mysterious Mr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Right, another James Bond reference there, by the way. I named him for the villain from License to Kill.
Oh, I'm trying to remember now. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you totally know who that is.
Robert Davi.
And it was also Anthony Zerbe was in it too.
Yes. Yep.
Remember him from Insurrection?
Absolutely. Yep. He got his head blown up in the pressure chamber.
Hyperbaric chamber. Yep.
Yeah. I remember now.
Yes, never try to beat Paul at a movie trivia. In other words, you bring him along whenever you go to a bar and participate in trivia night.
Well, that just goes to show how I spend my time. Anyway.
And speaking of time, that leads us to part 6.
Yeah.
Time's Hammer.
Which ties up a minor little thing that you pick up at the end of 4, which is information of something that happened very much in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I like the way it was done, too, because you almost resolve it in the present. But then there's still the loose end you have to go and take care of. It's almost a standalone at that point.
Because we've done it all before.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you go back in time to do something you've already done. Well, failed to do, I guess.
Yeah. Something you tried to do before, but apparently failed.
Under completely different circumstances, because the chain of events isn't quite the same.
Nope.
No, but that was rather interesting. Firstly, because you go down there, expecting resistance, and you get down there and you find that they're pretty much unprepared. It's like they don't have a lot of security in place. They're still getting things set up.
And there are so many spiders.
Yeah, it was a good idea. It's definitely a good idea. I enjoyed the series a great deal.
And you also get, there's also a little thing early on. You find out what really happened to the crew of the Monticello from parts 2 and 3.
Yep.
Which there's an entire side thing on that for rescuing those poor lost souls.
Yeah, imagine being held captive 80 millennia, in the past, and then being saved. That's...
And then the climactic scene of that, which I won't spoil the particulars for, was probably the most elaborate triggered set piece I had ever done to that point.
I almost made it out of there in one piece without engaging a single soldier. The only thing I got nailed before I got to the exit.
Yeah, me too. I got buried when I got to near the end. I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I was.
That's one thing I've had to tweak that. I've had to tweak that dozens of times probably because of feedback from players saying that it wasn't working quite the way it was intended, or it was working.
It's not horrible.
It was people getting stuck.
I will admit, much worse. It's not.
I will admit that I did the bad player thing and was looking for the objective circle, going, "I've got to get out of here!" And then I just got shot by about 50,000. All the things that aggroed and chased me down.
I'd be running through the smoke, and I'd go by.
In fact, most of the NPCs that are fighting each other, I actually have to invisible wall off from the player so they don't start attacking the player. Because otherwise, otherwise you'll be dead in 2 seconds.
Yeah, you could see it going on in the distance when you're behind the generator.
Right, which that was a very nice set piece, I thought, was you interact with an object and part of the storyline goes on. You interact with another object and then more of the story goes on and then everything hits the fan. And getting to use the confusion of that event to set off to set your charges and Make
Get out of
like
there.
a tree and leave.
Yeah. And I think those are all the details we'll give, especially at the very end of it. We don't want to blow it for anybody, because I definitely recommend that everybody go play it.
My biggest recommendation
time.
is to play the missions over a span of days, not right on top of each other, because
That's what I do anyway for most of the series I play. Like I recently played Droid Descent series to kind of help him with his remastering effort, and I wound up I could only end up handling one mission a night.
but you can only tip 100 dilithium
Yeah, I found that.
per day. So
Yeah.
if you're playing 2 or 3 missions in a day, you don't get to tip.
Yeah, I did as much as I could. It did stop me today, because I played 3 through 6 today. And it was,
But overall, I definitely recommend everybody check it out.
oh, definitely.
Check it out over a span of time, though, like we said. But it's definitely... Series are hard to do. I know Paul can definitely speak on the writing of a series, because he's laid out a 6-episode monstrosity.
But not with this kind of detail. I mean, that was different. That was...
And not done by one sole
Right.
author, which is
Right.
the big thing.
It was giving plot points, and then the authors did all the writing. But, you know, this is different. This was, like I said, had to be planned out well in advance in order to work as well as it did. There's a lot there. So it's all in the details.
Yep.
Now, what
And don't forget,
inspired
I've also
you?
this also. Excuse me.
What inspired you to, I'll say, give the captain a voice in the dialogue interacts? Because there are a
Yes.
number of times
Mhm.
that we as the captain make a statement or continue a thought.
That's something that I wish we had actual support for in the Foundry, is the ability
Right.
to have captain dialogue. I mean, that's a vital part of pretty much every Star Trek episode and movie there is.
Yeah.
Is the
although-
captain going long soliloquies.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously you like to do it. I like to do it too. I don't do it the way you did it, although, you know, I never thought of doing it that way, but it worked quite well. I just use separate dialogue boxes, and I use like a Borg console or something, you know, something generic as the dialogue place card. You know, we should have just some kind of, you know, holder for the dialogue box.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
But
thinking
anyway.
like for something like that, like the Federation logo as your generic, or the Federation, Klingon, and Romulan logos as generic placeholders
Sure.
for that, or for the ship, for dialogue from the computer,
Or just the
or something
silhouette
else.
for when you
Maybe-
and you haven't picked a costume yet. Just
Maybe
the
we need to-
silhouette.
Maybe we need to ask Zero if it would be easy enough to find a logo in game to map as a contact.
Right. It's just
Or
it doesn't have to be animated.
Ooh, we're getting the shadowy, like future guy sort of NPC in the season 10, I think.
Huh.
Because I've heard reports that people playing the older missions running into a shadow silhouette guy. So maybe if that's an NPC, things to plot for.
Yeah. But anyway, I was saying that, you know, I like to do it, and obviously you do too. But I've gotten criticism because some people don't like to have you put words in their captain's mouths. You know, there are very heavy RPers out there who take offense to it almost. I mean, I think it's necessary to tell the story sometimes, and, you know, therefore I can't worry about it. But I have had people complain.
And that was actually going to kind of be my next question. Have you gotten any feedback, positive or negative, towards the captain's stance at the end of the mission about how to win, about what manner you need to win.
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Well, you give the captain an opinion voice of whatever it takes to make sure that the Federation stands.
Okay, right at the end of part 6.
Right.
Yes, at the end.
Okay, I guess that I haven't gotten any feedback to that effect. I'm guessing I was going. I guess my intent there was just to comment on the fact that for such a peace-loving entity as the Federation, we sure have a crazy knack for getting into a whole lot of violent conflicts, and then just having a discussion go from there.
Yeah, well, no complaints from me. No, I like it. I'll take, as long as it's part of the story, it doesn't bother me personally. I wouldn't think to say, gee, I would never say that, or,
Remember when we used to be explorers?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of that. I mean, a lot of STO is, all of STO now is just shooting. I mean, there's not much exploration anymore, really. So, yeah, it's a good point to make. But anyway, great mission. I gave every one of them
Thank
5
you.
stars, actually. I couldn't tip you because, like Cass said, I played them in one day and they stopped me.
Well, again, if you like that one, remember I also made a prequel trilogy on the Romulan Republic side.
Right, and that's gonna have to be another weekend.
Another episode.
Yeah, the next time you come back, we'll do that.
Let some other people have turns on this podcast for the next few weeks, anyway.
Hey, we're just starting up. We're gonna have a lot of people. We hope. I'm sure we'll have people back. It's just the nature of things.
Yep. Of course, I'm still working on other projects too. I've got a Klingon trilogy in the pipeline, and I've also got what I'm working on now is a standalone, kind of a one-off Delta Quadrant mission that I'm working on. I call it a one-off, but I'm actually going to make both Fed and Klingon versions with Romulan-friendly dialogue on both sides.
There's a challenge. Nice. Right. Okay, shall we begin a new conversation? We'll talk about our episode of the week.
Sure.
Yes, our episode.
I know. Well, I picked it this week because just the way that the episode ended, pretty much. So, to me, I thought it was a controversial in a Trek sort of universe. But we watched Voyager's Tuvix this week.
Season 2, episode 15.
Well, I can find that if I have to.
Episode not at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, no, I'll find it as we discuss it. I just didn't even think to look at it. But anyway, the episode starts with Neelix and Tuvok down on the planet gathering some botanical samples. They're picking out these orchids, these different flowers. And they're beamed up. And when they're beamed up, they are beamed up as a single being. As a single person, which I get that, in the science fiction realm, that's a perfectly valid plot point. But why it would redesign the outfit, that always bothered me a little bit.
I'd wondered, that struck me too. Because what it reminded me of was the TNG episode Rascals, where Picard and a couple of people get turned into kids, and their clothes all get resized so that they still fit them.
And tailored immaculately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is season 2, episode 24.
Okay, so it was the almost very end.
Yeah. The actor playing Tuvix, I thought was great. It's Tom Wright, I believe.
Yeah, that was a very good performance by him, especially considering his account according to Memory Alpha. Apparently, during interviews, he admitted he pretty much had to wing it. He hardly got any advice from the writers or producers about how to handle that character at all. So he basically just had to wing it.
Yeah.
He did a pretty remarkable job on it.
I think so. Yeah, he was able to mix the two personalities pretty well. You know, in different situations. I thought he did a great job. But you know, throughout the episode, there's two plots going on. One is that the doctor says there's virtually no chance of ever reversing it. He's that way for life. He's there, and you know, he's just going to have to adjust. So as he's adjusting over a period of weeks, he makes friends. He straightens his relationship out with Kes, who's all confused over what to do. But the strange thing to me was that it seemed like a lot of people were angry at him. Like, you know, like it was his fault.
Like he did it?
Yeah. You know, and then once they get over that, they're friendly to him. Even Janeway is friendly to him. You know, Chakotay says, you know, he's become a friend and all this stuff. And then the doctor figures out there's a way to separate them. And he gets Harry Kim, and they work hard. And they perfect this way of separating Tuvok and Neelix and bringing them back. And, you know, he's like...
And everybody's, oh, this is great. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Except for one person.
Right. The guy they're going to kill. All right? Now, this is Star Trek we're talking about. Since when, in, you know, any of canon, is it okay to take some life form, especially a new life form? I mean, they don't even talk about that he's a new kind of being, because he's not Talaxian or Vulcan, you know. And they just, we're just going to destroy you. We want our 2 crewmen back. That's it.
Yet another war crime of the arch-time criminal Janeway.
And it's terrible. It's terrible. They perform literally an execution. Now,
but, to be fair, the one character who really stood by his true compass was the Doctor.
Yes, but that's the contradiction. Now, he worked so hard to figure this out. If he were that opposed to it, why would he even...
His ethical subroutines realized that he did not consider. And this is before we knew there were ethical subroutines that you could disable.
Right. But, I mean, it was a minor protest. It was like, well, you know, I'm a doctor, and I've vowed to, you know, to save life, not destroy it. Here's the hypo look. Here you go. You know, you can do that if you want. I'm just going to stand over here. You know, there was no big, I don't know, big protest over it.
And nobody stood up to defend him.
No one did.
But see, as I remember, that was one of the Voyager episodes that made me cry, which I cannot say about very many Voyager episodes because I did not like Voyager.
Oh, many episodes made me cry, but they weren't tears
not
of
for that reason.
for the character.
Yeah. I just think. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's everybody's general consensus, I think. I don't think there are many Star Trek fans who say, oh, well, Voyager's my favorite out of all of them.
But I always thought Voyager, if they had done it right, from start to finish, could have been the best one of them all.
I liked certain episodes of Voyager. And none of the characters really annoy me. I mean, people hate
Voyager's
Neelix, but I don't know why. Neelix
biggest
was a fine
problem
character.
was always the inconsistent manner of the writing.
Yes.
It suffered, of all the Star Trek series, it suffered from the most variance in the writing style and the focus of the characters. And it took basically to the end of DS9 before they got their groove,
Yeah.
because they brought in so many of those DS9ers to kind of stabilize the writing pool. And that's probably the biggest problem.
This
Well, even with
Was it-
even then, Janeway was kind of even then Janeway was pretty inconsistent, at least in the later seasons. Because in the first few seasons, she was pretty much exec producer Jerry Taylor's baby, but then she left the series, and that's kind of when the writing for her went off the rails.
Yeah. It's too bad too.
Well, that and when Seven of Nine came on board, and the series basically became the Janeway and Seven show.
Yeah. But I
Just
think
starring the Doctor.
Kate Mulgrew's a great actress. She really is. She's a great person, and I love her. But
Uh-huh.
you know, there are some tough, tough, decisions on the show to reconcile with, Trekdom. It was tough. The writing was to blame, definitely.
Arch-time criminal Janeway.
Yeah, she could only do what was put in front of her. I mean, think about it. The actors were on par with the actors on every other show. There's no doubt about it.
At least we finally have righted the wrong of promoting Ensign Kim.
This show was different, though, in the way that it had a network writing on it. When this show was released, it was the flagship of the Paramount network, the UPN.
UPN, that's right.
When UPN was a thing, before they became Teenage Vampire Werewolf.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, UPN basically died the same year Enterprise did.
There was a lot of weight on the shoulders.
That's when they merged with the WB.
Yeah. But, that's my take. I don't know. I think that if she got back to the Federation, she would have been taken off that ship in leg irons. I mean, for that alone. Never mind the other, the other transgressions.
Well, maybe that's pretty much what they did. A lot of people remember what Kirk said in Generations: "Don't let them promote you." He seemed to take promotion to Admiral as almost kind of a punishment. So maybe that's exactly what they did with Janeway. They took her off the ship and kicked her up to Admiral.
Yeah.
Well, it was two birds with one stone, because that means Nechayev no longer had to harass Picard. They could just make Janeway do it.
Yeah. Because really, that's all we saw her do was, relay a message, We're sending you to Romulus, Jean-Luc. All right, take care. See ya. But as far as the episode goes, big mistake. I think it could have been handled a lot differently. I mean, look, you were able to have two Rikers because of a transporter accident. So why don't you separate one and keep the other and have everybody there instead of one or the other? They never even gave a thought to figuring that out.
Well, it's not like you couldn't use the transporter buffer.
Neelix gets a holographic lung, that that's how smart this Doctor is. So,
So yeah,
figure
basically,
out something.
Just make a holographic Tuvix.
if they could have, they what they should have done is you have a pattern buffer. You disable the protocols in the pattern buffer. You run him through once. You now have a copy of his pattern.
Right.
Store that pattern. You split them, and you restore the pattern.
Exactly. See?
The only downside to that is that can get you it down a metaphysical rabbit hole.
Well, how about this? How about they did for Tuvix what they did for the scientist, the Vidian scientist lady there, Khan, or whatever her name was. No, what was her name? You know what I was thinking? I was thinking
I
of
know who you
Manara
mean.
Khan from DS9,
Oh.
but no, what's her name?
Pell, that's who it was.
Pell.
Schmull, you call Dr. Schmullis.
Schmullis. Yep. Her. All he did was put her consciousness in a hologram. You know, they didn't even consider that.
Yeah, that's the only way I can really see it happening, because then you get the question. I mean, if Tuvix was actually the conscious essence, whatever that may
The Katra.
be, of the two of them put together into one, then by separating them into two individuals again, the one no longer exists, because the one was not its own individual, but was instead a combination of the two.
That's not true, though. When he was merged, he was one consciousness. He wasn't two separate people.
Well, was he, or were the two
No,
consciousnesses
they talked
just
about
working
it.
together like a trill?
No, not at all. He was one individual. He had the memories of both.
But then what that gets into, well, again, the Katra, what that essence that makes you an individual.
Well, there's the
did
fault
those
right
two
there.
essences become one?
Instead of taking time in the episode to even talk about those things, they wasted it on a relationship with Cass. They could have used those minutes to explore more important aspects. And then, you know, we didn't get to truly understand him then, before they executed him. But,
And yeah, they kind of gloss over the bit where everybody gets to like this new guy and even his better cooking,
right.
which you got to ask, did anybody tell Neelix afterwards, you know, when you were two guys at once, you were a better cook?
Yeah. And they wouldn't have that constant bickering between them, because they're the same person now.
And that's another thing they really didn't cover. Did Neelix and Tuvok retain memories of their shared?
There was such
They just
opportunity.
Split. Neelix,
Yeah.
hey, Neelix loves Kess. Tuvok is fully operational. Credits.
Yeah, they didn't explore any of that. It was a wasted opportunity.
Because they just wanted to
that,
forget this ever happened.
Yeah.
It was probably a ship in the bottle episode that they just kind of, which is probably why they didn't give him a lot of direction, because they just kind of threw it together.
Well, that's too bad. That was a wasted opportunity for a good episode. And, you know, and they did exactly what I guess they should have done, is just step on it at the end. Crush. Get rid of them. Execute them. Reset button. We have
Red shirt.
Yeah, we have our two crewmen back. We can go on to the next episode episode 25, as if it never happened.
That was a typical Voyager thing, though. Things happened, we reset it. None of it ever happened.
Like nobody ever said in the next episode.
Where they end up with having the Borg hatch on the ship.
Oh yeah, that was
And he ends up saving them.
Yes, was that called One?
It's something along those lines.
Is that the one that merged with the Doctor's hollow emitter?
It was the same. Yes,
well, that's
it was
how
the
he was
same
conceived.
actor
Yes.
that played the German colonel in the holodeck episode. You know what I'm talking about. The guy who worked with the Herosian's right-hand man. The Nazi.
Oh.
It was the same actor. That was the Borg guy. Wait a minute. I'll find it.
And he keeps wanting to do voice work in Stowe, too.
Who?
That guy? Wait. Sorry. Nope. I'm sorry. I'm thinking I'm thinking one of the teenage Borgs from later.
Oh, no. You're talking about, what's his name?
Okay. The episode is called Drone.
Is it Drone?
Yep. Okay. I've got it in Memory Alpha.
I thought Drone was the... Yeah, the actor who played that Borg was the same guy who played the Nazi colonel then.
But he does name himself One.
Right.
You were right about that. But yeah, I thought that was one of the few truly touching episodes of Voyager. And then the next episode, it was like it never happened.
Right.
Like, it's supposed to be a major turning point for Seven's character, and you don't really see the effect on her.
Seven as caregiver.
Although, I
As
mean, she
mommy.
does end up with the Borglings later on, but...
Yes. All right, well, that's Tuvix then. Any other thoughts?
Janeway should pay for her crimes.
Well, yes. I mean, any other subjects, topics you want to touch on? Anything bugging you about STO right now?
The lack of news.
Well then, why don't we'll wrap it up then?
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem, Pax. I'm sure we'll have you back again.
Uh-huh.
Because, yes, we have at least 3 more missions in play to go. Plus, what, another 3 in the pipeline?
Well, like I said, I've got a prequel. I got the Klingon trilogy that I have in the works, though that probably won't be ready until the fall at least. And in the meantime, I'm doing 2 different versions of the same mission for the Delta Quadrant.
Nice. That's. I have a project, but since we've started this, I haven't really touched Foundry in a little while. Plus, like Pax's mission, it's going to take a lot of pre-planning, which I don't normally do a lot of. Usually my stuff's done on the fly as I go. Well, I have a story, but usually things change according to what I can do with a map.
Well, until we meet again, everyone, Jolan True.
Yep. Take care now. This is we have our addresses up on the screen now. Our site is www.theauthorsoutpost.com, and to contact us, we're at mailbag@theauthorsoutpost.com, and our Twitter is @authorsoutpost. And Pax, your Twitter?
Okay, my Twitter is, once again, NCC89471 without the dash.
Yeah, and we have that up on the screen now so that all can see. Captain P.F. Dennis saying good night.
This is Gasmodian saying doom and good night.
And this is...
Signing off.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.